Hello and welcome. Today's video is about creating custom wheels for CARX as a KINO parts pack. If you don't have Unity and the SDK already installed, linked in the description is this webpage where it provides instructions for installing the correct version of Unity and also the latest release of the Content SDK. Also linked in the description is a zip folder with some handy objects that we're going to be using in this tutorial. To start off with, we're going to import the models that I just showed you. And that gives us a couple of handy items. We have a tire representing the in-game tire, a wheel representing the in-game wheel, and we also have two objects representing the brake caliper and the brake disc. We'll just turn all of those things off for now. And now I'll import the wheels that I'm going to be doing. Start off with this JNC wheel. Now this wheel model is nice in that every part of the wheel is separated into a different mesh. This comes in handy for separating and grouping which parts of the wheel we are going to want to paint in game. As you know, in game, there are two options for painting the spokes and the rim. So naturally, we're going to be naming these parts of the wheel spokes and rim. We'll select our rim model. Call that rim. It must be titled rim. We'll press this button here to create a new material. And we'll rename this material to rim. And for better visualization, we're going to paint it an obnoxious pink color. So now we know that this pink thing is going to be painted as a rim in-game. Now we've got what looks like a two-piece wheel. So the spokes in this back barrel are going to be one thing. Currently they're separated, so I'm going to hold Shift, join them together. I'm going to name this model Spokes. Press this button. Give this the material Spokes. And we'll give this an obnoxious green color. Now for the rest of the parts of the wheel. This particular wheel has something still left over behind the lug nuts. Yep, so I'm just going to paint that black. Cool. If we want to, we can select all of these parts and join them together, just so it's easier to manipulate them if we need to. We don't need to rename any of these materials. We don't need to rename that mesh. These are fine. So now it's time to reposition, rotate this wheel so that it suits the CARX wheel. We have everything with its origin point in the center here. Everything is going to be nice and easy to rotate. Scale it down a bit. Now in this particular wheel model, because this outer lip is basically 2D, it's going to be impossible to get the tire to fit to it properly. We can tell that it's 2D by using face orientation. We can see that the outer, which is going to be the face we can see, is blue, and then the inside is red. By having a thin plane like this, we're not going to be able to close the gap between the rim and this tire, and we're going to be able to see through this red face, which isn't what we want. What I'm going to do is tab into edit mode. Using edges, I can alt click this outer rim, pressing E and then X to extrude it in this direction, just slightly. E to extrude again, and then scale to bring it down like this. I'll just move that back in a bit. So now our tire is fitting to this wheel a bit better. Just grab all of this again, bring it outwards slightly. We can see that the tire slightly goes through this new lip extension that we've made, but it doesn't extend through the front of the rim. So when we go in game, the tire is going to look like it fits perfectly. Now for the back of the wheel. Back of the wheel doesn't matter as much. So we'll just drag it to there. And that should look plenty fine. Now it's time to check our brake fitment. We can turn these objects on. At the moment, there seems to be a bit of a gap between the back of the rim and the brake disc. So I'm going to grab all of these objects, move them forward, still a bit of a gap there. Cool. Is there brake clearance between the caliper and the spokes? It looks like there is. Cool. Nice fitment. If there wasn't a gap between the caliper and the spokes and they were colliding with each other, we would have to make a spacer. Shift this back a bit. And where our 3D cursor is, we can add a cylinder. Make it smaller. Spin it around. Reduce depth. So we'd put this spacer at the back of the wheel. Give it a material. Give it some metallic, give it some smoothness, make it a bit darker. Shade auto smooth. And then we'd include this in our wheel export. And we would also bring the caliper back up until it fits. But this rim doesn't need that. We'll go back to this point. Okay, now for our rim, where this origin point is where it's going to spawn the brake system in game. Here we have a handy item called Set Me at Your Spokes Origin. Once we have that item selected, Shift S, cursor to selected. That brings our 3D cursor to that origin point. And now we can grab all the meshes of the wheel, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. That shifts the origin point back. So everything as we see it here is how it's going to spawn in game. Now it's time to put in place shadow bug prevention. Shadow bugging is when the UV map of the wheel is incorrect and causes shadow bugs. Why does this happen? Because CARX. We're going to make another window for UV editor. We're going to look at the wheel front on. Going into our spokes mesh, we're going to press U, project from view. Pressing A to select everything in here, scale it down, and we are going to put that right into the top right corner. I don't have answers. This is just what needs to happen. And when we do this, it will prevent shadow bugging. Cool. That's that step done. And now the very last thing before we export the wheel ready for Unity, we need to make sure that our scales and rotations are all set back to 0. So what we can do is select all of our items for the rim, and we are going to go Control A, rotation and scale. So now the rotations are reset and our scale is set back to 1. With all of our meshes for the wheel selected, we can now export as an FBX. Make a new folder for exporting. And because this wheel uses textures, I'm going to set this to copy. And I only want to limit it to my selected objects. This JNC 01. Because why not? Cool. Export. Bang. So that's how you prepare a really nice modeled 2-piece wheel where everything is separated and easy to prepare. But what if you've got a shitty San Andreas 1-piece wheel and every part of the mesh is connected to each other? We are going to use L-select to select the parts where we don't want to be painted as rim or spokes. Sometimes you're fortunate in that you can L-select everything, but sometimes you are unlucky and have to do things the hard way, using click and drag, shift clicking, stuff like that. So I've got those parts selected. I'm going to separate by selection. Clicking on this part again, because the decals are transparent, I'll separate into their own one again. Now I'm also going to separate the lug nuts, and I'll show you why in a second. Now because this is a 1-piece wheel, all of this mesh is going to be painted as 1. So what I can do is rename this to rim, and I can remove all of these materials, leaving 1. And because I'm in the same project as the other wheel, I can choose spokes material or rim material. I'll go with rim. So that signifies it's going to be painted as the rim in game. So now what we can do for the paintable spokes is these lug nuts. We'll do rename to spokes, and we'll get rid of all the materials except 1, and we will make this spokes. So now when you're in game, you have the option to paint the rim as 1 piece, and you can choose what color lug nuts you want. And just like before, all of these other things are going to be their own materials and meshes. So now I would just turn the caliper on, reposition things, until it looks good. Yeah, that'll do. And because it's just selected, we'll grab these parts of the wheel, set their origin, and do the UV mapping, making sure that the rotations and scales are also done, and then I'd export that wheel as well. So now I'm in Unity. I've launched the SDK. This is obviously the one that I've been using for all my mods. Excuse the mess. I'm going to create a new folder for the wheels. Now I'll go to where I've exported all my stuff. I've got the texture folders here, the models here, and a thumbnail of a dog getting hit in the cock by a frisbee, and that is going to be used as my wheel pack icon. Why not? We'll drag these into our folder that we just made. Here we can see the models have imported. I'm going to select one of them, click on Extract Materials, Just click select folder, that's fine. So now we have our selection of materials all ready. I'll then select the other wheel model. And because I'm using textures or materials that I've already got, I can go on to on-demand remap. I'll select from models material, project wide, search and remap. And we see that rim and spokes get filled in automatically. I'll apply them and then I'll extract the remaining. Cool. For whatever reason, materials that are chrome don't end up getting metallic for whatever reason. We can adjust the metallic, put them back how they were. Make sure our cap looks good. Yep, that'll look good in game. Yep, that's fine. I reckon because that sticker was transparent. Which one was that? T37AL. So we'll find the texture that's titled that. And we're going to select alpha is transparency. And select apply. That fixes that right up. What next? I think I'll make a new scene. I will save this scene anywhere. Wilt up. That's fine. Now I drag my models into here and one at a time drag them back out. And this creates prefabs. So now I can rename these. JNC 10, I think it's called. I don't know. And this prefab can be called TE37. Going into JNC, we need to make sure that rim and spokes are called as they're meant to be. Same as the T37. And now what I can do is right click, create, KINO, car part packs meta. This brings up this menu. We're going to select wheels. We're going to call them tutorial. Category name. Noisy tutorial. Hello. Yes. Description. You can give it a description if you want. No thanks. Pack icon. Here comes the dog. Boom. Now we click the plus button. It's going to be a wheel. We'll drag our JNC into this slot. Now, if I was sensible, I would take a screenshot or a picture of my wheel here or here. Take a screenshot of that and save it. Drag it into here and then use that as a pack icon for that wheel. But I'm just going to reuse the dog. Plus again, drag the T37 onto there. Wheel is already selected. Ouchies is already selected. We're going to validate all. If you cannot find, if this menu doesn't pop up automatically, we can go up to KINO, Car Parts Build Tool. It might think about it for a second. And when it does pop up, it'll show this window. We're going to unselect everything. Wheel tutorial. Cool. We'll select that. And we will build. Obviously, you would edit your author details in here. You can click those buttons to find out how to get these numbers here. I'm going to edit where we build our packs to. I've already got mine selected. So I'm ready to build. Open the build folder. Going to copy this. And we're going to put it in the install content folder. Now we can go in game. And reload our custom car parts. Okay. And my mouse has disappeared. I fucking love this game. We'll go over to wheels. Scrolling through until we see a dog getting hit in the dick by a frisbee. There he is. I'm going to turn my controller on because I can't fucking do anything without the mouse. For the front wheels, I select the JNC. God damn it. Okay. That looks like it is nice and lined up properly. And for the back wheels, I'll select the TE37s. And they look nice. Let's just double check. I don't think the sticker on the TE37s is actually transparent. Let's take a closer look. Yep. Okay, let's fix that problem. We need to... is this a transparent one? This is a transparent one. We'll set this to transparent in the material surface type. That looks better. Okay. We'll build again. That looks better. My mouse has disappeared again. Beautiful. Cool. And we'll just double check that the paint is working. I'm pretty sure it already is, but visual sake. Front rim. Beautiful front spokes. Beautiful rear rim. Fantastic, and rear spokes. Fuck yeah. Awesome. I hope that is everything you've ever wanted and more. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.